Hi everybody, today I'm going to be reviewing this black mesh cincher made by Madame Sher, and I do apologize for getting this review out a little bit late because Madame Sher was supposed to be the featured corseteer of the month of July. However, my schedule got changed around a little bit, so thank you for bearing with me, and without further ado, let's get on with the review. So here's the front, the side, the back. And if you see a strange shape in the back, I will get to that. That's just the Modesty Panel showing through the mesh there. And here's the other side. The center front of this cincher is 11 inches, and the shortest part around the underbust to lap, or I guess about the side there, is about 8.5 inches. However, I did submit my measurements to Madame Sher, so as far as I understand, these corsets are custom made. As far as the silhouette goes, I would definitely consider this an hourglass silhouette. It cups around the rib cage quite nicely, and then it also rounds out over the hips, nipping in the waist quite a bit. So I actually find this silhouette to be very comfortable on me. Because this is a ribbon style cincher and most of the panels are going horizontally, I do notice a few differences. For instance, when I'm wearing this sort of corset underneath clothing, I might see a tiny bit of a groove here between the panels, but quite honestly, if I'm wearing a very lightweight dress, it looks almost as if you can see my rib bones. So I mean, depending on who you are, that might be a good thing or a bad thing. But because this particular corset is so lightweight and there are so few vertical bones going through this, I actually don't mind those horizontal lines that look kind of like a bony rib cage sticking out underneath my clothing, because it's a lot less obvious that I'm wearing a corset using this style of cincher compared to one that has a lot of bones and you can really plainly see the boning channels underneath my clothes. So here's the Madame Sher cincher laying flat, and when it's laying on the table like this, it doesn't look all that curvy. It's a little bit deceptive that way. And for the material of this, it's basically one layer, as you can see the mesh, and if I give you a close-up of this mesh, I generally don't like to compare one brand with another, but when it comes to these summer mesh corsets, I mean, the materials are just so different because there's not one standard material like couture when it comes to the summer mesh corsets. But this one is a natural fiber. I think it's cotton. It feels very similar to cross-stitch canvas that you would get at a craft store, so I'm not sure if that's the same thing. This is not synthetic the way that a contour corset is. It's still very breathable. This has a little bit more give though. It's much more flexible. It has a tiny bit of a stretch to it, but obviously as you saw when I was wearing it, it holds quite strong. And you can see where the vertical panels are on the front and the side seam in the back here. That is covered in black twill. And turning the corset on its side here, for the construction here, technically you could say that it has like 5, 10, 11, 12, 13 panels in here. But if you were to consider these horizontal pieces to be one panel and these horizontal pieces to be one panel, then it's technically just, I guess, 5 panels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you can see, it gives an absolutely gorgeous shape. I really love the silhouette that this piece gives me. So I have no problem with the, the construction here. For these horizontal panels, those have been assembled together using a flat felled seam. So basically, it looks like that. Well, if I kind of turn it outside, the seam looks like that, and then there is stitching there and there, so it holds it, it locks it in place. So it's stitched at least twice there, and it's also stitched twice along these vertical panels right there. So it holds fairly strong. If I open it up to the inside here, you can see that the center panel has a line of twill going across there. Now, I'm not sure if it is just one solid piece going across or if it's actually partitioned right there. So I wouldn't exactly call this a waist tape per se. Most ribbon cinchers don't incorporate a waist tape, so I have no problem with this. As you can see, it seems to be holding fairly well on its own anyways. Here's a close-up of the binding. It's made out of bias strips of matching black twill, and Madame Sher had mentioned specifically that she machine stitches the top side and the underside here because it's much stronger than hand finishing the inside, and I find this to be neatly done anyway. So
The Modesty panel is actually pretty awesome. This particular Modesty panel is 6 inches wide, and I would say that it is about 4 inches of usable space, which is more than enough for me. It's actually attached with grommets on the side, so it's removable. It's just tied on to the back there with ribbon, and this is fully boned. It's actually boned, I believe, with plastic boning going horizontally, and so it has a little bit of flex so that it can curve along the lumbar area of your spine. But I find it very comfortable. The only problem is because this is mesh, I do see the Modesty panel on the outside. That's the only issue. But because I can close this corset pretty much all the way, I don't even really need the Modesty panel there to begin with, only I guess to protect myself from lacing burn if I'm wearing this right next to my skin. And actually this is one of the very few corsets that I feel okay wearing next to my skin because it's that comfortable and that breezy. And what else I like is that Madame Sher had very kindly included a spare Modesty panel here, and I mean, I don't sweat that much, but if I do sweat, it's on my back, so I can have one, you know, hand washed, and while that one is in the wash, I can have a spare right here. So I really like that idea. So here's how the Modesty panel is attached. You can see there's 2 grommets at the top and 2 grommets at the bottom, and that is just tied on with a thin piece of ribbon here to a kind of little overhanging lip in the back of the corset. This is just an extension of this back vertical panel with the grommets on it, and it just ties on like that. Additionally, there is a Modesty placket underneath the knob side of the busk. It's unstiffened, just a piece of twill that is folded over. The busk is another unique feature of Madame Sher. This particular busk is about 10.5 inches long, and if you remember what I said before, the entire length right from the top to the bottom of this corset in the center front is 11 inches. So literally the end of the busk is right there, and the binding, the stitching for the binding is just a couple millimeters away from that. And the busk itself was actually cut on a curve. It's on a slant right there so that it follows the diagonal line of this corset. You can also see that the loop side of the busk is actually square instead of your typical, I guess, more pear-shaped or rounded. This is because Madame Sher commissions a local jeweler to make the busks for her. These busks are actually not your standard 1/2 inch wide flexible busks. These are quite sturdy. So if I fold it back like this, you can see that the width of the busk is 3/4 of an inch wide, and this one has 5 pins, all equidistantly spaced. Laying the cincher on its side, this corset has 8 bones, a total of 8. So on the side here, there are 2 bones in this vertical panel. I believe they look like 1/2 inch wide spiral steel bones, and I can feel the U-tip on there, so I'm fairly certain that they're spiral bones. And then in the back here, they used 1/4 inch wide flat steel bones. And even though there are very few bones in here, I think it still gives a great shape, and I mean, it doesn't really wrinkle, so that must be a property of ribbon cinchers in general and just the way that this was constructed. Here's a close-up of the grommets. There are 24 2-part size, I believe these are 00 grommets, so 12 on each side, equidistantly spaced down the entire length here. And here is a close-up of the inside of the grommets. They all seem to be holding very well. None of them are fraying or coming out. They do have splits on the back here, but I find that it doesn't really catch the laces all that much. And I don't know if that's because of the grommet itself or if it's because these laces are different as well. These laces are sort of satin rat tail laces. They're very thin. They're only about 1/8 of an inch wide, virtually no stretch to them. And they are made out of a synthetic fabric, but I mean, I can pull as hard as I can on these and they will not break. They are a little bit slippery, so you need to know how to tie a proper bow when you are tying off your corset, but honestly, these are really cool laces. This black mesh cincher only costs $220 US on Madame Sher's website. So that's all for this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did like this video, then please remember to click that like button, help support the channel. If you have any comments or questions about
this corset or Madame Sher's corsets in general, please feel free to leave them down below and I'd be happy to get back to you and answer as best as I can. And I will see you all in a few days for the next video. Bye!